Everybody, welcome back. I'm excited about today. We're going to play a little game. Ashley gave me grief about this because it's one of those games with, when you were a kid.
Don't hit me under the table.
Don't hit me under. Ow.
Ow.
That's a joke because anytime I do something I'm not supposed to, she'll hit me under the table and then I call it out and make it really uncomfortable. But do you guys remember the game Never Would I Ever? Never Would I Ever. Never Have I Ever. Is that what it is? Never Have I Ever.
We play it all the time.
In writing today's episode, we were talking about that game, and obviously we're not going to play that, but there's a reality that there are some things, we want to flip it. There are some things that we have gotten away from in our lifestyles, and that it's not out of ignorance, it's out of experience, it's out of intentionality. And so today we're going to play a little game called Never Would I Ever. And once you see it, it's just really hard to go back, that there are certain things that we have chosen, and all of us should be choosing to draw a line in the sand and say, never would I ever, like going forward, never would I ever, that we set some parameters around what our lives look like in the reality of our health.
Right, and I remember one that you very early on said that was just, we never eat out of a window.
That's on the list. Yeah.
Like we don't eat out of a window. We don't drive someplace, order it, grab it from a window, and eat out of a window. Like, it's just a never would I ever.
And I think we'll break that one down as it pertains to food and that, but we have like different categories. So there's something in each one of these categories. And sometimes when you hear them at first, you're like, oh, well, I don't want to. I was talking to a patient the other day, and she said, actually, it was somebody interviewing that wanted to work in our office, and she said, I just don't really believe in taking medication. I don't like the idea of taking medication. I don't like the idea of surgery. And if I were to ask, 100 people who wants more drugs and surgery, you might get one weirdo that raises their hand and goes, yep, I want more drugs and surgery. That's my goal for my life. But most people, I would say the vast majority of people, probably everyone, is going to say, no, that's not my goal. I want to be healthy. I don't want more drugs and surgery. Unfortunately, that is the status quo when it comes to what we call healthcare. And you guys have heard us talk about this. We call it sick care. Mm-hmm. But I was talking to this lady, and it was funny. She said, I just don't like taking drugs. And I said, how much do you not like taking drugs? I said, let me give you an example. Last drug I ever took was when I was 8 years old. And I said, my wife had 3 children. She had them all at home and had them drugless. And our kids have never had a shot ever. They've never had an antibiotic for anything. And the only time one of our children has ever had a medication was when he broke his arm. And I said, I actually got bit by a brown recluse spider and never took a drug. And she goes, okay, I'm not there yet. She goes, I'm not there yet. But it led me down this, thought pathway of like, what is that? And it's not just out of negligence. Like, you got to have an answer to each one of these problems. So number one on the list for me, never would we ever, is ideally we would never use an antibiotic for a common childhood illness. Mm-hmm. That goes ear infections, that goes tonsillitis, that goes all this. And most of it's because most of these problems can be resolved without antibiotics. Antibiotics are just they're the fast food of the drug industry, and they're the low-hanging fruit. And so how do we avoid those?
Right. It's kind of like let's take a first swing at it. Let's throw some antibiotics about it. And what's weird about the sort of the perception then is that antibiotics are no big deal, and you just use them whenever you want to, and they're kind of like your first line of defense, and you just run out and grab them almost like they're like a vitamin, or they're like you just grab them and take them. Just let's take a swing at it. If antibiotics don't work, then we'll move to the next line of defense.
We pretend it's healthcare.
Right.
And it's not. It's sick care. And is it effective? Sure, it used to be. It used to be very effective that antibiotics actually help to kill pathogens. But because of the overuse of antibiotics, now we have antibiotic-resistant bacteria. So now antibiotics don't even work. And then the crazy thing is most common childhood illnesses are actually not even bacteria. They're actually viral.
Right. Right.
And we see that all the time as somebody has, the flu or pneumonia or something, and they go to the doctor and they're like, put them on antibiotics. And we're like, how did they come up with that? Because this is not even a bacterial thing. This is actually a viral thing. Antibiotics don't work. And then the problem with the antibiotics, so to set up the problem here, is that one round of antibiotics, and there's literature on this. You can go and research medical journals like the Lancet, and you'll find this across the board. And I think it's now common knowledge. Antibiotics actually destroy your gut flora and lead to things like leaky gut syndrome, immune deficiency syndromes, that actually the more antibiotics you use, the less healthy you get and the more compromised your immune system gets. So in our family, if we're not going to use antibiotics, what do? We've gotten some education and spent time working on plant-based medicine and using essential oils. So there's a blend that we use. And rolling down the kids' feet anytime they're fighting something off. Do you remember what goes in it?
Yeah. It's clove, thyme,
oregano,
cilantro, and oregano.
Yep. Clove, thyme, cilantro, and oregano. And the reason that those work is because they've been studied to kill some of these foreign pathogens, including viruses, and shut down the virality and the transmission of these things. And so parents will come to us and they're like, so your kids have never taken an antibiotic? Like, what do you do? Remember Hudson's friend said, what do? You just drink water and sweat it out like it's the 1800s or something like that? Drink tea and sweat it out like it's the 1800s?
Go to sleep.
And so, no, it's not about being irresponsible. It's about having a better option and then drawing a line in the sand and saying, if my kids can grow up through their youth and make it to adulthood with never having taken an antibiotic, what is their health going to look like in the future?
Right. And we make sure that they get adjusted so that their nervous system is healing at 100%. Everything in their body is operating at 100%. When you don't feel well, when your kid doesn't feel well, they need to be at 100%. They don't need to be at 50% or 25% or 75%, 100%.
And that leads us to number two. And number two on the list is childhood, and I would even say adult vaccination. So I was a normal person and got vaccinated when I was young, up until probably age 5 or 6. I probably had a total of maybe 13 vaccines. How many did you have?
0.
Yep. And our kids have had 0. And what's cool,
I was a normal person and I stayed a normal person.
But my parents didn't know any different. Right. However, again, going back to, most people don't know this, is that they go, I got shots. Why wouldn't I give my kids shots? Right. I turned out okay. Number one, the shots were different back then. The chemicals and the adjuvants in them were different. They've changed a lot. And then number two, the schedule has changed a lot. So now by age 18, a child will receive 70 plus up to almost 80 vaccinations by the time they're 18 years old. And so that is something we've opted not to do. And I was talking to that same person about that the other day, and they're like, they've never had anything. Like, what about polio? Everyone goes to polio. What about polio? What about this? And I'm like, it's extremely hard to get most of these things if you're a really healthy individual. So again, going back, plant-based medicine, nutrition, chiropractic care, keeping the immune system strong. And does it mean our children never get sick? No, it just means that we believe that naturally acquired immunity is to be chosen and preferred over artificially acquired immunity. So whether you're injecting something in directly to the bloodstream or they're getting it by picking up a quarter and putting it in their mouth or whatever that looks like, they're going to come in contact with foreign pathogens at some point in time. And the question is, are we building immunity or are we actually tearing down our immune system? The one thing we found with vaccination is not just the influenza in it or the measles virus in it. It's all of the other things in there. There's antibiotics in there, erythromycin, there's latex, there's proteins from eggs, there's proteins from actually human cells. They grow most of these on human cells or animal cells. And so the question becomes, if we're putting all of that in our body repetitively 70, 80 times, is it adding to or taking away from our health? So our health decisions should never be automatic.
Yes. Yeah. And, one of the things that's been really wonderful for us and our family is that we have indoor plumbing. And so to that end...
And wash our hands.
And we wash our hands. And so to that end, a lot of the things that have changed over the years when you looked at what illnesses happened and what people were dying from and what issues were happening, nationally, globally, what have you. A lot of that was predated indoor plumbing and predated a lot of the basic sanitary measures that we take today. And granted, can you swing that pendulum too far? I think that we saw that, during a certain period of time that will not be mentioned, but with over sanitization of hands and, spraying everything down and doing all sorts of wild stuff like that. But like generally speaking, we go to the bathroom in a toilet that takes it off to a magical place that isn't anywhere inside of our house. And then you wash your hands afterwards. And then you wash your hands.
Yeah. Right. So that was real clear. And you'll never hear a flu season without them mentioning like the flu pandemics. The number one flu pandemic they're talking about, sometimes they talk about the swine flu or 1972 or whatever. But before that, the big one was 1918. That was the dangerous one. And if you think about 1918, people had outhouses. You know what I mean? Right. They didn't have running water. They weren't washing their hands a lot of times after using the restroom. Food preparation was different. Think about how different food preparation is nowadays. Right. Like go back to the Oregon Trail. What was the old, you died of dysentery. Now, like somebody posted recently on Facebook about a local restaurant. They're like, did anybody else eat here? Because I have like Montezuma's revenge. It's pretty rare that you would get bacterial, poisoning from food anymore because of the practices we have. And it's changed so many things in terms of pathogens. Most people don't know that. They don't realize that a lot of the science is actually, we have escaped the risk of a lot of this because our lifestyles are so much different than what they used to be.
Right. And I say it a little jokingly, right? When I say that, like we have that, but it's to understand the context of what's going on. I think that's a big deal. And I think a lot of times when you get scared by information, when somebody's like, oh my gosh, the flu pandemic of 1918 and, people dying left and right and, all this stuff, this can happen. And then you're like, wait a second. Where were people in that time? What did day-to-day living look like in that time? What was sanitation? Like what was the environment? What was, what are all the factors that go into it? And how does that look different than right now? And so I think more than just being scared, I think really having some context there is really a good thing.
And if you want to read a really good book on this, we have a friend who just wrote a book on vaccines and went over a lot of the history, because I think that's the thing is people get scared and they go, what about polio? What about mumps? What about rubella? What about measles? What about, it's like, okay, you got to really look at the data of how many, what's the mortality rates of this condition? If you got it, what's your likelihood of getting over it? Mm-hmm. What's the actual risk involved? And then what is the actual stats and data through VAERS saying about doing the opposite? If you get the vaccine, is the vaccine actually sometimes more of a risk or more dangerous than the actual disease or condition itself? So there's a great book, is A Vaccine Decision, and Leah Wilson, who is a attorney, medical rights attorney, awesome person, wife to an amazing chiropractor. But that would be a great book to get if that is something. So I want to offer answers and solutions to each one of these. So that brings us to number three. Number three is never would I ever skip a chiropractic adjustment. And again, I heard you interviewing someone just a few minutes ago, and you were talking about that it's more than neck and back pain, that it's about the total health of your body and the functionality of your nervous system, that your nervous system drives everything.
I mean, literally, to think about chiropractic in terms of just neck pain and back pain, it's like, oh my gosh, what's the lowest level use of something that's really amazing that you could possibly do? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I don't even have a great example. It's like taking a sports car out and driving at 20 miles an hour where you go down the road. It's just using it at the absolute lowest level of what it is.
Going to church for the cracker and the grape juice.
Going to church for the cracker and the grape juice, right? That's exactly what it is. That's what using chiropractic for neck pain and back pain is. And so, when you think about it in terms of the function of your nervous system and how what percentage of your nervous system do you want functioning? Do you want to function at 100%? Do you want to function at 90, 70, 80, 60, 50, 40, 30, 10, 12? 0, the guillotine. The French proved it with the guillotine. You can't function at 0, right? So what is the function of the nervous system that you want? And, when you look at people that are really into oh my gosh, like really into like performance,
Yeah.
right? And like willing
Optimization.
Optimization. Yes, that's exactly the word that I was looking for. And you're willing to, for an extra 0.5%, for an extra 1%, for an extra 3% optimization on, you know, your athletic ability or your mental capacity or, you know, like whatever it is. And then the idea that the nervous system is all of that.
Yep.
I mean, it's literally the most optimized that you can possibly get.
Yep.
And so how regulated do you want your nervous system? How clear do you want that nervous system communicating? You want it communicating at 100%.
We had a baby come in this past week, and mom and dad wanted the baby checked because dad said, I watched the delivery. They're like, they had to grab the baby by the head and pull and kind of twist. And he's like, I was watching it and thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh. And he goes, I know that the effect that chiropractic has had on my life, I'm sleeping better. I don't get sick as often. And he's like, so I'm watching this happen and I'm thinking, we got to get this kid checked right away. And it was such a cool thing to hear him say that without even having to lead or direct them in that direction. He's experienced it himself. He wants it for his children. And it was funny because I told him, I said, you know, my kids, we tried to eat really clean. We tried to avoid sugar, you know, which is next to impossible once they start going to school and things like that. But when they were young, very, very limited. We try to remove all added sugar in the household. We eat really clean. We used to, you know, like juice with the kids when they were young. They were drinking, you know, green juice and kale juice and stuff like that. And we avoided things like traditional juices, you know, orange juice, apple juice, high C, fruit punches. What are the
Sunny D?
Yeah, what's one in the little bag? Capri Suns.
Capri Suns.
We tried to stay away from that because they're going to have a whole lifetime to, you know, be, you know, exposed potentially to that. But we try to really limit it. We try to get outside. We had our, you know, shirt off, get some sunshine, run around, get some vitamin D, shoes off, grounding. But the one thing I told them, if there's one thing that I could do for my kids that I would try to never do, if I had to only pick one, it would be chiropractic adjustments for the rest of their life because God already created their body amazing. God already created their body healthy, and chiropractic is about removing that interference. So the hierarchy is going from this idea of like getting adjusted because of pain to like not being in pain and then getting adjusted because you don't want to be in pain. Mm-hmm. And then eventually you get to the point where like things are healing. You're like, oh, I'm healthier. But you get to this point where you're like, I want to be functioning and I want my kids functioning at their optimum all the time because they have less sickness. Their resistance is higher. They depend on less antibiotics. They don't need vaccinations because that nervous system is so healthy. So that's not just philosophy. That's physiology, that their bodies are made to heal and designed to heal. And chiropractic is one of those huge things that you can be doing on a regular basis to make sure that they're healing at their best. So that brings us to yours that you brought up earlier, which is eating fast food through a drive-through. So our rule was we don't eat through a window. And that was actually taken from a friend of ours. So never would I ever hand my body something that was engineered for shelf life.
Oh, yeah.
Like you guys have seen the people saving the McDonald's hamburgers and the fries not to pick on McDonald's, it's all fast food. Right. But the reality is because of the way that these things are created, are they convenient? Yeah, they're absolutely convenient, but convenience is costing us so much in terms of our health, our energy, our metabolism. So the general concept is food is either building you or it's breaking you.
Yes. Yes. And a girlfriend of mine and I, we did 30 days where we ate nothing that came from a box or a can or was, you know, like processed.
Box bag or can, yeah.
Right. Box bag can. Didn't come from it. Significantly more difficult than you think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Significantly more difficult.
Another way of saying that is the only ingredient should be the thing you're eating. So like, for instance, if you look at, you know, crackers, you'll see, you know, wheat and flour and blah, 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 blah. But if you look at an apple, there is no ingredient list because the ingredient is apple. Right. And, you know, if you buy a steak, the ingredient is meat.
Right.
From the shoulder or the butt.
She has a grain mill. So she was a little bit above the game, ahead of the game with me because she could at least make some of her own, you know, like wheat to be able to make some, you know, bread and stuff. But I mean, it was significantly more. I mean, that 30 days ended up really just being like meat, vegetables, fruit for me because it was like, hey, this is, you know, these are just ingredients. You just make them up and then you eat food and then, you know, but it was it was interesting because you don't realize how many of those sneak into your life, and how routine it gets.
There's another one that goes side and side with this. We divided into two, and same concept is never would I ever fuel my body like a trash can by eating food from a gas station.
Oh yeah, that feels like a very logical rule. Yes. You
However,
oh, are we gonna go Buc-ee's?
Most of the gas station's revenue does not come from gas.
Right.
Most of their profit does not come from gas. So what are they all called? They're called convenience stores. Yep. And again, we said, we're choosing health over convenience. But you go into a gas station, it's not just candy bars and bubble gum. It's potato chips and snack food, and it's the drinks and all this stuff. And I would challenge you guys. This is kind of a crazy concept, but go to a gas station and park out in front, right by the door. Park in one of the closest spots. Don't park in the handicap unless you got a placard, because I don't want you to get a ticket and then blame it on me. But park close to the door and just watch people going in and out. And what you'll see, and you'll see this, I see this in the mornings, and it blows me away. You'll see at 10 in the morning, 2 bags of chips, 2 Monster energy drinks, or a Mountain Dew and a bag of chips and all this. And what's really wild is half the time you will see people going in and out wearing scrubs, which means they work in a medical facility, that they work in quote unquote health care, and they're eating their meals from a gas station. And that just blows me away. And again, I have nothing against gas stations. I have nothing against, I think everyone should make money. I have no qualms with, but that shouldn't be where you fuel yourself. So if fast food is like the worst, I would say gas stations even have that one. Gas station, like what is it? Like the hot dog that's rolling around on the thing that's been there forever, or taquitos. And in our area, we just got this new brand of gas stations called Wawa, and they're beautiful. You go in, the bathrooms are nice, the place is clean, it's gorgeous. They pay their people well. Buc-ee's, they pay their people extremely well. They got, what is it? They have like 9 jillion gas pumps or something like that.
I think you rounded up, but it's about there.
I love it because, it's one of the few places I can go fill up in diesel and get my diesel exhaust fluid, my DEF, all at the same pump. You don't see that very often. Yeah. Love Buc-ee's, but you go in and it's like brisket, and don't get me wrong, it's higher quality than what you're going to find elsewhere. But again, it's like, eating out in general isn't healthy for us because of the ingredients that are used, seed oils, canola oil, added sugar, all this. So the idea that we would fuel our bodies from a gas station or through a window, like a drive-through, is a wild concept. So I would encourage you guys, make that a rule in your family, especially for your kids. And listen, if you like Buc-ee's and you're like, oh, but we love the brisket at Buc-ee's, this isn't a great opportunity to say, hey, we've made mistakes. We've made mistakes, and we can always change direction. We can always change direction. Yeah. And really using it as a moment to teach your kids, like, hey, this is a new concept we're just learning. We don't eat. We're going to make a new rule in our family. We don't eat out of a window, and we don't eat from a gas station.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
So this next one, I have 2 names of stores on here. I'm not going to use the names because I don't really want to keep calling out businesses. That's not the goal. But if you buy your supplements from a big box store, or if you're buying them from the same place you buy your, tires, your household cleaning stuff, where you may buy socks. Yes. If you're buying your supplements from a store, you buy your tires and socks. Right. That's probably not a great idea. We all assume that most supplements are created equal because they have certain standards that they have to adhere to. But the reality is, when it comes to supplements, you can get supplements that are in, these big box stores that don't digest well. They're poorly absorbed. They're synthetic. They're underdosed. They're not based on actual literature of what's in that supplement. These are the ones where you go and you find the brand, like, we are kids. We are strong and growing. The chewable. No. Do you remember that one? No. Flintstones.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I remember Flintstones vitamins when I was a kid, and it's funny, like, they tasted like candy.
Oh, did they?
They did not
I never
taste
had
like a supplement. And so for our family and for our kids, never would I ever buy my supplements from a general grocery store or and it's not to say that there may not be a supplement in there somewhere that would be Dr. Ryan or and Ashley Berlin and Align Chiropractic approved. There may you may find a product sneak its way onto a shelf somewhere that is a cleaner product. But generally speaking, 99.9% of everything you're going to find on a big box store shelf is poor, supplementation. So if you're going to buy supplements, then where do you buy them from? The best resources are you want things that are organically made. You want things that are farmed regeneratively. You're looking for ingredients that aren't just A, B, C, D, E, F, G, in terms of vitamins. That's baseline stuff. You're looking for things that have herbs, that have just different botanicals, that may even have medicinal-based mushrooms in them, things like curcumin and turmeric, and so you want to find organically sourced, regenerative farmed supplements. You want fish oil, for instance. You don't just want to buy something that says omega-3. You want your omega-3s to come from sustainably sourced, non-farm raised, wild caught small fish. Things like mackerel and sardines and stuff like that. So it's really hard to find these at the big box stores. Best thing to do, find a practitioner-only brand. Mm-hmm. So a brand that is only sold through a health or wellness practitioner. Those typically have much more stringent stipulations on how they're made, higher standards, and they're really excellent. We have some awesome brands in our clinic, and if you have a local chiropractor or a local functional medicine doctor or a naturopath, that's where I would be buying supplements from.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh, absolutely. The next one that's on the list here is the idea that long distance cardio is your main fitness strategy.
Yeah. So never would I ever get in the habit of doing long distance cardio as my main routine. We have a patient. He's ran over 100 marathons. He's ran several 100-mile marathons. He's in his 80s. He's a fantastic man. And
he's got more mileage on him than like my first car, I think.
Probably does. And what I love about him is when I talk to him and I say, why is it you run marathons? And he goes, I just enjoy getting out there. It's more mental than anything. I think a lot of people get into it because of that, because it's cathartic. You can get out there and you can just kind of like you and your brain figuring it out, and it's monotonous, and it is a break away from just all the crazy, right? But unfortunately, long distance cardio puts a lot of stress on your body. That people who do long distance cardio over time, they actually lose muscle mass and gain fat mass. They will lose weight, they will get thinner, but they will get thinner in a way where their BMI actually is more fat-based and less muscle-based. And it's just because of the catabolic action of this. So you have to do some anabolic activities, that is lifting weights, resistance training, Pilates, something where you're actually building muscle mass. Muscle is that organ of longevity. We always, joked around when we did CrossFit. It was, what do you do to get fit? I lift weights. What do you do for cardio? I lift them really fast. Yes. And there is a cardiorespiratory response that is important. Right. But if you're only doing that and you're not building muscle, you're missing most of the benefit of regular exercise. The other thing we just talk about is I've never seen a skinny hamster. No. And the hamster's on the wheel running all the time. And so, rarely do you see a skinny hamster. And the concept behind that is because when you're doing that activity over and over and over again for long distances, your body actually starts producing more stress hormones. So this might be the first time you've heard that. And you like to run, and that's okay. You can run, but you have to complement that with weight training and resistance training.
The next one might be my favorite.
It's becoming my favorite too. I was never good at this one, but never would I ever ignore sleep. Mm-hmm. That sleep is such a huge part of your healing and your health journey, because when you're sleeping, it's one of the few times that your brain, which is where most of your caloric intake comes from, most of the activity in your body in energy systems is your brain. and your brain gets to power down and your body actually goes to repairing and restoring other functions. And so, we don't want to trade sleep for productivity and call it discipline. Like what we want to do is we want to be disciplined in our sleep. And what happens is when we sleep well and we're getting good rest, our productivity actually goes up.
Right. And being disciplined in your sleep looks like not staying up late, like following a rhythm. Like when you see the sun going down, like, there's a rhythm to this, and go to bed earlier in the winter time, and then just go to bed. I mean, don't stay up till midnight, 11 o'clock, midnight every single night, doing stuff on your phone and doing dumb stuff that you don't have to. Disciplined that's the aspect of discipline in your sleep, not setting an alarm at, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. to get yourself up and out of bed when you didn't go to bed on time, and then now your whole body's falling apart because it can't heal and repair.
I see this in the hustle culture. You know what I mean? People, I used to fall victim to this, is that I don't require as much sleep as everybody else. I only require like 4 to 5 hours a night. You can get away with that for a while, but you're not really getting away with it. Eventually it catches up to you. I was the person that I could do that. I could do that sometimes for weeks, but then I would have those days where I would just crash, or what happens is you're going to end up sick and fighting something off that you otherwise would have resisted. And so a big part of the, not taking antibiotics, not taking all this, is we're doing some proactive things between getting adjusted, eating well, and sleeping well that actually increase our resistance so that we have less need for those other interventions. Also, when it comes to sleep, one of the things that blows me away is that I see this, the other people I see this in isn't just the hustle culture, it's the retired people. That they stay up watching programs and playing Sudoku or Wordle or, doing whatever it is. But it's funny, and I understand that you have some newfound freedom. You don't have to get up for work in the morning, but it blows me away how many retired people I find, and they're like, oh yeah, I don't usually get to bed until, midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's crazy. And there's one thing I've noticed is as I've aged, it's harder to sleep in. So a lot of times these people are staying up late, but they're still getting up early. And in that population, you just can't afford to do that. So if you skip that, if you skip, sleep, everything else starts to fall apart. So number 8 is sleep. And that brings us to number 9, which is never would I ever live in a state of constant stress. And this is a weird one because our lives nowadays are unnaturally stressful for everyone. One of the pieces of research that we talk about is that there was a piece of research that came out about a decade ago where they said that children nowadays are under stress levels due to their schedules, sports schedules, school schedules, homework, family life, like all these different things, social media, text messages, having a phone in their pocket all the time, being available all the time, that children nowadays are actually under a stress level so severe that it would have put somebody in the 1920s into a mental institution. And so, have we adapted to it? Sure, we have to some degree. Does that mean we've adapted and it creates health? No, it doesn't. So how do we take back some of this? And for us, a big part is the word no. Like sometimes we don't want to use that word, especially when it comes to opportunities, to families, to gatherings, to different things. This happened just the other day. One of our boys went to a dance. He, the day before got prepared for the dance, went to the dinner, went to the dance, went to the party afterwards, stayed the night at somebody's house, came back, and his first thing was, can I get together with so-and-so and do this day? We're like, no, bro, you have a soccer game later. Well, we don't need to constantly be filling our schedule with everything. He ended up taking a brief nap and reading, and went for a swim, and much more restorative than just jamming that schedule full. So I know sometimes we feel like we can't get away from it. What do you think? Like, what are some of the things that we try to do to open up that schedule a little bit, or how do we be intentional?
Yeah, I think that there's really, I think that taking those opportunities, I mean, like we do a really big calendar planning every single November where we set the calendar for the year that says, here are the big things that we want to do. And we did this for years and years and years. And then a few years ago, Jesse Itzler came out with his,
big
Yeah, a big calendar.
Expletive calendar.
Right. And so we've been using that for the past couple of years. And we did this before that, but I really like the format of his big calendar. So we've been using that for a few years now. But just really going in and being intentional about, like, here are the big things that we want to accomplish during the year. And then even here are some of the smaller things that we're going to accomplish. And then everything flows around those things. So it's like if you put your big rocks in and then the river flows around those, then it doesn't feel like you get to the end of the year and you're like, oh my gosh, I had all these things that I wanted to do and I just never had time to get them done, right? Because you have things set around those things. And then everything else is just then the other little things, and you just determine, we kind of live in 6-week sprints, right? Where we say we look at things sort of 6 weeks at a time, business wise, but then also personally. So even in the kids' sports seasons, their seasons are typically 6 to 8 weeks long. Yep. So if you're going to sign up for something with your kids in sports, and your kids might not be that age, or they might be right in the thick of that, right? Where you sign up for these sprints of times where you go, okay, I'm going to sign up for this for a period, but I know when the end date is. And then at the end of that end date, we're going to make a really informed decision. Was that worth our time? Was it valuable? Was it good as the family? Was it good for the kids? Did they have a great experience with it? And do we want to continue forward with that, or do we want to pivot and change directions? And there's been plenty of times where, we've had different activities where we've pivoted and we've changed directions. We've kind of changed sports or changed activities or cut back. And then there's been times where we've said, hey, we've cut back for a long time now, and then we're ready to add. To do some things.
There's actually a great principle in there. So if you are a runner, you know that you can't sprint forever.
No.
And that's where, again, the long distance cardio, and we just talked about how long distance cardio actually can start to break you down over time.
Yeah.
Same way in your schedule. What we do know is that some of the most effective forms of cardio are surge or burst training. Why? Because you do the work and you get the recovery, and you do the work and you get the recovery, and surge and burst training can be really good. I would say surge and burst training in your schedule can be really good. And it doesn't just have to be 6 weeks, but yeah, you can look at it and go, all right, 6 weeks. But then if you go 6 week sprint right into another 6 week sprint, then you're in trouble, and that's where burnout and fatigue. That's where burnout and fatigue come from.
That's not 2 6-week sprints. It's just a 12-week sprint.
Sometimes maybe it's kids play different sports, so it's this kid is playing a sport during this time, but when that ends and the other kids playing sport, we don't have to fill up everybody's schedule all the time. Also, it doesn't have to be, sometimes it's just a brief pause. It's a week or two. It's a trip. It's something relaxing. It's, going on a hike. It's being intentional about taking some time with your family. So it's just you and your family. Also, I think you can break it down into like a day or a week. Like, is there, like, for us, powering things down 2 hours before bed?
Yep.
Powering down devices, powering down lights, powering down things 2 hours before bed. Great time to read. Great time to have that family conversation, to talk about the day. One of the tools that we've used over the years, other than the big A # calendar, and I would recommend you guys get one. That calendar has been awesome for us. Yeah. Another tool is the 5-minute journal. To take 5 minutes in your morning and 5 minutes in your evening to write down some of your thoughts, your goals, your wishes, your desires, and again, have some intentionality. Another one, to use the Charlie Kirk one, was the Sabbath. Having a Sabbath day's rest and having a day where you do nothing. And so I think that's a huge one. So that brings us to number 10. And number 10, this one's the big one. And we're going to finish up with this, is never will I ever wait until something is wrong before I fix it. This is about being proactive and not reactive. This is about, symptoms. So like, this is a great, idea, is that a lot of times we wait until symptoms show up, but unfortunately symptoms sometimes are the last thing to show up. Recently started seeing a new dentist and really love him. A biological dentist, somebody who's more holistic in nature. Yep. And I think people get it when it comes to dentistry. If you wait until the pain shows up, chances are that tooth is really damaged. So waiting for symptoms, waiting for conditions to show up, it's too late sometimes.
Yep.
Being proactive.
They say you're cooked.
You're cooked.
You're cooked. You can't wait. You can't wait for it. And the interesting thing about that too is that chiropractic in its nature is a very proactive thing. Like, if you use it proactively, properly, it is a very proactive thing. It is how you set the right direction and coordinates for your health, so that you know that it prevents you from going just way too far out of whack.
Yep. And here's the truth, is that I think every single one of these at some point we've all done. Mm-hmm. I ate at a gas station before.
Unbelievable.
I've eaten, fast food. I've bought supplements at a regular store before. I have skimped on sleep. I have missed adjustments before, not always by choice. There are these things. I've waited, unfortunately, until symptoms showed up, but it's not about guilt. It's not about, listing off a bunch of things and creating this impossibility that these are all reasonable things. It's about awareness, and it's about really changing our mindset, because when we know better, we can choose better, and I think that's the conversation. But some of these things, and I've talked to people about this before, and they're like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. I like the way your family thinks. And I think what they're saying is, oh, wow, you guys have taken time to think through these things. And so that's what I want to challenge you guys to do, because those choices, they stack up over time. And so maybe the better question is, what's one thing you've been doing right now, deep down, that that should be on your never will I ever list? Right.
And you can borrow ours, or you can make your own. Mm-hmm. But the thing is just, I think the whole point of the whole thing is you should really be intentional about the choices that you're making, right?
Yeah, I think do you have a list? Mm-hmm. Do you have a list of never will I evers? And do you have a list of standards? And if you don't have one, I think now is a great time to create one.